Discover the touching moment. Billionaire grandma's tears were inspired by a waitress's unexpected struggles. As rain poured down over the bustling streets of San Francisco, Evelyn felt the weight of her loneliness more than ever. Here she was, a self-made billionaire with an empire built on countless late nights and early mornings, yet each glimmering skyscraper only heightened her isolation. The thought of her family, who only visited when they needed financial assistance, gnawed at her. She was known for her innovations, but deep down, she longed for meaningful connections, for someone to share her triumphs and trials with. The idea settled uneasily in the pit of her stomach. Wealth couldn't fill the void of emotional neglect. A surge of desperation pushed Evelyn into her favorite diner one rainy afternoon. The familiar warmth enveloped her as she crossed the threshold, enveloped in the mouth-watering aroma of brewing coffee. Dining booths lined up like old friends, and it was here that she felt the weight of her empire start to dissolve, if only for a moment. As she sat down, the realization sunk in. This place was a refuge from the sterile chaos of her corporate hideaway. Coffee? Sarah, a spirited waitress, brightened the day with her smile. Her worn-out sneakers made a faint scuff as she hurried by, balancing a tray full of orders. Evelyn smiled back, absorbing the comfort of the diner's warm ambience contrasted against the gloom outside. As they began to talk, an unspoken connection bloomed. Sarah poured out her dreams, her hopes to start a business of her own, her current struggles to make ends meet while caring for her ailing mother and young daughter. The words collided with buried memories of Evelyn's own past. She could feel her heart swell at the tenacity radiating from Sarah. But beneath that connection lay an impending storm. The diner faced closure due to pending corporate restructuring. In that moment, Evelyn's heart sank like an anchor. Here was Sarah, with ambition and hope, staring into the black abyss of losing her job, her security. The thought sent tremors through Evelyn's chest. Hadn't she fought through the crushing weight of despair too? The question loomed large: could she intervene? Or would she continue the cycle of emotional detachment, just as her family had done with her? Her breathing quickened at the idea. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Evelyn stood at a precipice, watching as Sarah confronted her situation with a mixture of fear and resolve. A knot formed in her stomach, tightening as a flood of emotions surged through her. She was equipped with the resources to make a difference, yet part of her recoiled at the thought of engaging at a vulnerable level. The unease twisted her thoughts into knots of uncertainty. That deep-seated question clawed at her: was she capable of truly connecting? Her mind raced, thoughts fragmented, struggling between the world she had built and the person she yearned to be. She felt the walls of her high-rise office closing in on her even as she sat in this humble diner. Suddenly, a slip of paper landed on Sarah's table, a stark eviction notice that could seal not only her fate but that of her family. That final blow sent Evelyn reeling into anguish, a piercing realization dawning: she was inches away from being that same isolated figure again. As the storm clouds gathered in her heart, she confronted the truth. She was standing on the edge of a decision that could change everything, yet as her breath hitched in her throat, she questioned if she would let history repeat itself. Would she rise to the occasion or let another chance slip through her fingers? Evelyn's mind spun in a whirlpool of possibilities. The eviction notice flickered like a neon sign in her thoughts, illuminating the harsh reality of Sarah's predicament, mirroring her own past struggles. She had built her empire by wrestling with fears and uncertainties, fighting through the dark days alone. Yet, here in this diner, she was faced with a chance to rewrite not only Sarah's story but her own. She glanced around the diner, her heart racing against the clock. The buzz of conversations and silverware clinking became a symphony, drawing her focus back to the moment that mattered most. Sarah, oblivious to the billionaire seated just a booth away, clutched that eviction notice like it was a curse. In Evelyn's chest, determination began to stir like a wildfire. The decision weighed heavily on her, each passing second an agonizing reminder of the stakes involved. Should she unveil her identity, or would her wealth only deepen the chasm of misunderstanding? That fear thrummed in her veins, yet the specter of silent regret lingered just as aggressively. She was no stranger to risk, to the terrifying leap into the unknown. But this was different. This was personal. As Sarah walked past with a fresh pot of coffee, Evelyn caught her eye. An invisible thread connected them deeper than the surface conversation. Without realizing it, she had drifted into a moment of connection. Taking a deep breath, Evelyn motioned for Sarah to join her. "Can we sit for a moment?" Evelyn's voice trembled slightly, a subtle admission of her unease. Sarah tilted her head, surprised yet intrigued, and slid into the booth across from her. "Is everything okay?" Sarah's eyes flickered with concern, the eviction notice and all its implications looming heavily between them. Evelyn hesitated, struck by the sway of vulnerability that held her captive. "You're facing an eviction," she stated, the words emerging almost like a confession. The authenticity of that moment cut through her defenses. "Yeah, just trying to figure it all out." Sarah sighed, brushing a stray hair from her face, vulnerability spilling over. That small act captured Evelyn's heart, the sheer determination of a young woman grappling with challenges that felt insurmountable. "I was wondering what you would do if you had the chance to save the diner," Evelyn posed, the question hanging between them like a lifeline. It was a challenge being thrown into the air, a chance for Sarah to illuminate her dreams. "I'd do anything to keep it running." Sarah's eyes lit up, veering away from despair to a flicker of ambition. "It's not just a diner, it's a community. I've always wanted to transform it into a space for local artists." The light in her eyes sparked something deep within Evelyn. In her heart, a resolve began to crystallize. This was not just about saving a diner but igniting a flame in someone who deserved a fighting chance. The thought unfolded like a map towards personal redemption. She wasn't merely a billionaire, she could be a catalyst for change, a connection rather than a barrier. The truth buzzed deep inside her, she could finally embrace the risk of emotional investment. "Tell me more about that vision, Sarah," she urged, leaning in closer. As their conversation flowed into possibilities, Evelyn found herself increasingly absorbed. This connection, raw and unexpected, revealed a woman capable of triumphing against her own prejudices. The lines of their roles began to blur, and with it, Evelyn's isolation dimmed, yet behind that spark of inspiration lay an unsettling prayer that threatened to disrupt her newfound clarity. What if she ventured too near only to risk losing herself again? Shadows of her past echoed the fears of a lonely splash into connection, yet uncertainty grew richer in complexity, tempting her further into this unfamiliar territory. As she crafted plans of support and hope, her heart drummed a different tune, one that spoke of purpose and risk. With the evening's light fading, Evelyn found herself on the precipice once more, shrouded in the tension of emotional vulnerability. What awaited her on this path of connection would test not just her resolve but the essence of who she had become, or as what she would dare to redefine. Would she choose the comfort of solitude or embrace the unpredictability of relationship? With a moment's pause, she grappled with this budding resolve. The decision loomed. And then she asked herself, a whisper caught between her heart and mind, could she genuinely dive into the uncertainty of someone else's dreams and allow her own to blossom in the process? The answer remained tantalizingly just out of reach. As the din of the diner erupted around her, Evelyn's heart raced not from fear, but from a budding ember of hope. She had started a dialogue that could transform both their lives, yet that hope lay precariously balanced on her ability to take a leap of faith. Each word that floated between her and Sarah felt freighted with the possibility of change, and with each passing moment, she felt her own perspective shifting. "Have you ever thought about funding a local artist showcase?" Evelyn asked, the spontaneity of the question surprising even herself. But the thought had sparked as Sarah's mentions of community lingered in her mind. Here was an opportunity to imagine the diner as a beacon, not just for food, but for culture and creativity. An artist showcase? Sarah echoed, and for a brief moment, her eyes glimmered with a mixture of excitement and uncertainty. I mean, it's a dream, but I never had the money or connections. It feels like reaching for something so far out of grasp. Evelyn leaned in closer. The contrast poised between their lives became starkly evident. Here was a woman who had the means to reshape her environment, yet the emotional weight of her past had rendered her hesitant, almost paralyzed to act. Meanwhile, Sarah, who had little, poured every fragment of ambition into nurturing a community spirit. That undeniable spark ignited something in Evelyn, a memory of her own seemingly impossible dreams, long buried beneath layers of practicality. She remembered nights spent clawing her way up the ladder, always thinking about the path less traveled. But had she lost that passionate impulse along the way? These thoughts whirled through her mind while she watched Sarah's eyes brighten with the mention of her dream. What if, Evelyn began, her voice steady yet fervent, what if I helped with the funding? We could collaborate, turn this diner into a canvas for local artistry. The words slipped out before she could fully process the implications. Was she ready to throw herself into this undertaking, risking her anonymity, her comfort, and every defensive wall she had built? Really? Sarah gasped, her voice laden with disbelief. You'd help? The sincerity in her tone stirred something deep within Evelyn, a rich blend of pride and trepidation. This wasn't merely charity, it was an invitation to reconnect with the very purpose she had once found joy in, yet, with every beat of her heart came the shadow of doubt. Could she genuinely invest in something like this, both emotionally and financially, without allowing her past to bleed into their partnership? The question loomed larger, shrouding her excitement in apprehension. Of course, Evelyn replied, her conviction solidifying as the reality of her decision settled in. Let us build something special together. For you and for this diner. The admission felt weighty, like the first step off a cliff. As they forged through the details, Sarah's enthusiasm became infectious. Each idea exchanged felt like a soft dismantling of her guarded heart. It was exhilarating, yet terrifying. This new venture demanded a new side of Evelyn, one that was visible and accountable, a contributor rather than a distant benefactor. With tangible plans unfolding, the diner's tempo shifted, becoming a pond for excitement rather than stormy waters of despair. Yet, underlying this new promise lurked the unresolved conflict of her identity. How long could Evelyn remain in this new role, without unveiling her past? The risk of exposure became palpable. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting an orange glow against the walls, Evelyn sensed the dawning realization within herself. Was she ready to step into a space filled with connections and dreams and possibly heartbreak? Her own vulnerabilities, just beginning to rise, struck a critical chord. She offered Sarah one last encouraging smile before gathering her thoughts. The path ahead felt uncertain, yet brimming with the possibility of profound growth. Evelyn understood in that moment that living authentically required embracing the intricacies of those around her, as well as herself. The diner held the promise of transformation not just for Sarah, but for Evelyn too. As she prepared to leave, a delicious mix of excitement and fear tingled across her skin. Would she muster the courage to embrace her past and present as she ventured into this new chapter? Would the collaboration bring her closer to healing, or plunge her deeper into isolation? As the door swung closed behind her, Evelyn didn't know what lay beyond the threshold, but she felt it. The stirring of her own reawakening beckoned in the distance, demanding her to take that next decisive step. What awaited her once she crossed that line, into a world where vulnerability became both her shield and her sword? With the diner door firmly shutting behind her, Evelyn stepped into the cool evening air, a mix of excitement and trepidation swirling within her. The streetlights flickered on, casting a warm glow that mirrored the budding flames of ambition and hope ignited in her heart. What had begun as a simple lunchtime conversation was rapidly evolving into something robust, dynamically challenging the very fabric of her guarded existence. As she walked toward her car, the gentle clinking of change in her pocket served as a grounding reminder of her past financial freedom. Yet, this new venture had shifted her wealth from a currency of safety to a tool for deep, transformative connection. She didn't just hold the reins of a potential project, she was now intertwined with the dreams of another, a concept that ignited both thrill and anxiety. Reaching her car, Evelyn paused, gripping the door handle tightly. There was a duality to the upcoming project that compelled her to confront a critical aspect of her identity she had long left in the shadows. While she effortlessly navigated boardrooms, presenting polished proposals and wearing financial prowess like armor, this new undertaking with Sarah demanded the naked truth: vulnerability. Would she be resilient enough to be honest not only with Sarah but with herself? The thought gripped her psyche as tightly as the handle in her hand. Years of building walls to shield her fragile self from judgment reverberated in her mind, taunting her with the familiar whisper of criticism and self-doubt. But as she settled into her car, the familiar scent of leather intermingled with the remnants of her lunch, the greasy aroma of fries mingled with the sweetness of hope. This was it, this was her gateway to redefine her purpose. She turned the ignition, and the engine roared to life, resonating powerfully like her burgeoning resolve. Suddenly, a flurry of ideas lit up her mind. The artist showcase wouldn't merely be a display of creativity, it would become a platform to connect with the community on a deeper level. Evelyn envisioned artists telling their stories while surrounded by Sarah's comforting diner ambience, an unconventional stage that could draw people in, allowing for shared experiences to blossom. Despite this surge of inspiration, a lingering question gnawed at her: what if Sarah's enthusiasm clashed with the underlying tensions in their partnership? The vulnerability of exposing their dreams risks disappointment, possibly leaving both of them exposed to failure. Each stoplight became an echo of her internal debate. The more she envisioned the showcase, the more she contemplated potential emotional pitfalls. Could she maintain her boundaries while also embracing the chaos and connection that came with creative expression? Would opening herself to this new collaborative dynamic create an avenue for healing, or would it expose her to deeper wounds? Pulling into her driveway, Evelyn parked but remained seated, grappling with fear of the unknown. She needed to strategize. How could she navigate this new territory without losing sight of her professional identity? She pulled out her phone, scrolling through her notes and jotting down ideas for the showcase. Keywords flooded her mind: community, authenticity, collaboration. But buried within those words was a pressing realization: she could not keep her past at bay forever. On some level, it would inevitably penetrate her new partnership with Sarah. One honest conversation wouldn't suffice. As she finished her notes, a thought emerged with the clarity of a bell tolling: was she prepared to risk that exposure for companionship and creativity? This growing venture needed not just funding but her emotional investment. Driven by the promise of innovation and the pulse of hope, Evelyn stepped out of the car. It was as if every step toward her front door echoed with the possibility of transformation and confrontation, urging her to confront what had laid dormant for so long. Tonight, she would begin mapping out her plan to share her vision with Sarah, and stitch together their ideas into a cohesive tapestry. But already, she could sense the stakes rising. What would happen when past realities met the unfolding future of artistry they were about to explore? As she turned to enter her home, a gust of wind picked up, nature's own harbinger of change. Would she break free from her past, or would it hold her back, even as she planned her leap into this electric new endeavor? She took a deep breath, ready to face the exhilarating unknown that dared to redefine her. Evelyn paced her living room, the walls closing in like the expectations she felt building inside her. The clutter of her thoughts intertwined with her environment. The framed photographs of past achievements seemed to mock her uncertainty. Each face in the images had a story, a claim to her growth. But now, they felt distant, overshadowed by the tumult of her emotions. The clock ticked steadily on the wall, an incessant reminder that time was slipping away while she wrestled with her internal conflict. The project with Sarah promised something beyond mere financial gain. It was about legacy, about weaving a narrative that could alter lives. Yet, the weight of vulnerability pressed down harder than she anticipated. Could she truly share her vision without baring her soul to scrutiny? The vivid memories of boardroom meetings flooded her mind. She had stood confidently, armed with data and strategies, defending figures that measured her success in the cold, sterile language of finance. Those moments seemed so far removed from the task at hand. Evelyn sank into the couch, staring blankly at the open notebook in front of her. She had carefully drafted notes, but now they felt trivial against the backdrop of her self-doubt. How could she articulate her dreams in a way that resonated? Her pen hesitated above the paper, caught between the lure of profound creativity and the fear of failure. What would it mean to reveal her inner artist? She had almost forgotten what it felt like to create without boundaries, to express feelings rather than metrics. The thought frightened her as much as it excited her. She hadn't let herself be vulnerable in a long time, contorting her personality into an image of professional strength instead. When was the last time she explored her own depths beyond the calculated terrain of business discussions? Determined to push through, Evelyn closed her eyes and inhaled deeply, visualizing the diner where Sarah worked. The warmth of that space, so alive with chatter and life, was drastically different from the stiff corridors of corporate life. There was safety in the chaos of laughter, the clinking of glasses, and the aroma of comfort food simmering away. The notion of transforming that atmosphere into a canvas for creativity surged within her. She pulled her phone from the coffee table and sent a brief message to Sarah, an invitation, an olive branch of sorts. Can we meet tomorrow? I have some thoughts I want to share about the showcase. The moment her thumb hit send, a wave of anxiety crashed over her. What was she really ready to offer? But this was her chance to navigate a new blend of personal and professional dynamics, a blend she had always feared. Her heart raced as she contemplated the outcomes. Would Sarah embrace the rawness of Evelyn's vision, or would the collaboration expose them both to greater hurt and disappointment? Emerging from the haze of her thoughts, she seized her notebook again, this time flipping to a fresh page. Listing what she wanted to convey felt crucial. Intimacy, she wrote. Connection. It was a humble start, but a start nonetheless. This process demanded more than her financial acumen. It required her emotional authenticity. As she busily scribbled, the words flowed more freely than before. Each line served as both a release and a revelation, awakening a dormant part of her that had long been buried. Her pulse quickened with a hint of excitement. She was reclaiming something lost to the years of ambition, a spark of creativity, a flicker of old dreams. Yet even as enthusiasm bubbled within her, lingering insecurities flickered like shadows at the edges. She needed strategies to ensure her emotional investment wouldn't lead to another form of disappointment. Emulating her previous successes was no longer enough. It demanded a newer, braver version of herself. With renewed resolve, she glanced at the time. Tomorrow held the potential for transformation, and she could feel it whispering promises of new beginnings. But would she be able to stand firm against the tide of fear? Evelyn was on the precipice of a significant change. She felt the rush of creative energy coursing through her, counterbalanced by the haunting shadows of her past. Would her newfound direction lead to enlightenment or despair? Tomorrow's conversation would surely steer her toward an unexpected revelation, one that could alter the course of her journey forever. As dawn broke, a soft glow poured into Evelyn's living room, momentarily illuminating the chaos she had created. The messiness, once a burden, now became a testament to her struggle. There was beauty in the disarray. Old journals mingled with half-finished sketches and pages filled with her new hope. It reflected both her uncertainty and the adrenaline that accompanied the possibilities of the day ahead. With each sip of coffee, the familiar taste turned into an elixir of purpose. Today was not just another day, it was a jab at complacency. Her fingers drummed across the notebook as she retraced her goals. Courage, she noted, underlining it. A tough word, but the only way forward involved confronting her fears. For too long, she had opted for the known paths, rigid and calculative. But what if embracing uncertainty and frailty could lead to greater fulfillment? Evelyn checked her phone, a subtle thrill coursing through her as the minutes edged closer to her meeting with Sarah. She rehearsed her words in her mind, contemplating how to effectively convey her vision while remaining authentic. Instead of towering towers of numbers, she yearned to bring forth an architecture of stories. Her stories. Her heart beat faster with every passing second. Arriving at the diner, the cacophony of conversations and the sizzling of food brought her an unexpected wave of comfort. She spotted Sarah at a corner booth, a warm smile spreading across her face. The waitress could read Evelyn's expression without words, sensing the tension and vulnerability that lurked just beneath her surface. They exchanged pleasantries, yet Evelyn's mind raced with the gravity of their partnership. "Let us hear it," Sarah encouraged, sliding a piece of paper in front of her, the very same notebook where she penned her dreams. Evelyn swallowed hard. She had the chance to incite change, to ignite something worthwhile, yet the rawness of what was to be revealed made her pause. Would it be enough? "Okay, so," she began, her voice wavering but filled with an earnest conviction. She shared her thoughts: the merger of art with business, infusing the latter with energy and authenticity. She painted a picture of a showcase, explaining how it wasn't just about profit. "It's about community and connection," she said, feeling stronger with each word. "I want viewers to see themselves in the stories. We have the power to create something genuine." To her astonishment, Sarah's expression shifted from curiosity to understanding. "That's beautiful. But it's also scary, right?" It was the first time Evelyn considered the notion of fear as a shared human experience, one that could catalyze growth rather than stand as an obstacle. "Yes," Evelyn admitted, her gaze unwavering. "I feel incredibly exposed. But without vulnerability, there's no genuine connection. I want to find a way to weave my past into this." Ugh. Sarah nodded, intrigued. "What's holding you back? You mentioned legacy. What does that look like for you?" The question pierced straight to her core. The answer loomed like a specter she had avoided for too long. "It's more than just a project. It's every moment of achievement, regret, every piece of me that I've set aside for the sake of professionalism. I want people to see me, the real me." There was another pause. The diner had dimmed, the ambience shifting as an internal light flickered within Evelyn. Courage was indeed a terrifying yet exhilarating prospect. Those words hung heavy, resonating in the air as new possibilities stretched like the sun filtering through the window. "Then let us do it. We can build this together," Sarah said, her eyes shining with encouragement. Evelyn felt a surge of relief and excitement bubble up within her. Maybe, just maybe, sharing her vulnerabilities didn't mean unraveling her identity but redefining it. They began brainstorming, merging their ideas and fears into something greater than either could envision alone. Suddenly, the conversation took an unexpected turn, and Sarah mentioned a hidden talent of hers: an ability to connect with people deeply through her storytelling. "I've always held back," she confessed, mirroring Evelyn's earlier revelations. "But I think if we're being real, then we need to dive into that with our showcase." Evelyn's breath hitched as the weight of this collaboration settled in. They were no longer just two women chasing dreams, they were redefining what it meant to weave personal narratives into professional endeavors. Yet as the meeting progressed, an unsettling thought crept into her mind. What if crafting these intimate stories unveiled a side of her that was too harsh, too painful to share? The prospect of facing deeper truths about her life loomed, casting shadows over the optimistic creativity that surged within her. Evelyn knew that the next steps held profound possibilities, but also potential peril. Could she brave the depth of her past to move forward? Tomorrow would bring her face to face with her inner critic once more, the imperative choice of facing her shadows, no longer just for herself, but for something shared and vital. Evelyn awoke the next morning with a sense of urgency that coursed through her veins. The weight of yesterday's revelations layered upon her mind like a thick fog, each thought a tangled thread pulling her deeper into a complex maze of fear and hope. She rolled over in bed, the sunlight spilling in through the window, delivering a stark contrast to the tumult within her. A part of her craved the comfort of routine, the security of familiar patterns. But another part, the part ignited by her conversation with Sarah, urged her to confront the chaos of her past. What would it take to transform her fears into a powerful narrative? How could she harness the pain and pleasure of her experiences to fuel the collaborative showcase they envisioned? After a hasty breakfast, Evelyn settled at her desk, surrounded by half-finished sketches and forgotten notebooks, remnants of dreams and ambitions that had flickered and dimmed over time. With renewed determination, she opened a blank document, willing herself to type the first word. She had spent years avoiding her own truth, but today, each keystroke would be an act of rebellion against her self-imposed limitations. She began measuring her thoughts against her experiences, searching for the stories tucked away in the corners of her mind's eclectic archive. Memories bubbled to the surface, moments of brilliance overshadowed by self-doubt, dreams altered by voices of disbelief or condemnation. The more she typed, the more she felt a cathartic release, an awakening of untapped reservoirs of strength that began to shift her perspective, yet, amidst the fervor of creation loomed the familiar specter of her inner critic. What if they reject you? The voice hissed. What if you expose too much of yourself? Each word felt like a duel between vulnerability and self-preservation. Evelyn paused, her fingers hovering over the keyboard as doubt antagonized ambition. In that moment, she recalled Sarah's insights, the strength drawn from vulnerability, the poignant connection forged through authentic storytelling. What if your story helps someone else? Escaped her lips in a whisper, echoing the realization that purpose stemmed from shared experiences, from mutual understanding. Driving herself past the trepidation, she penned an outline, tangible and breathless, a narrative weaving her childhood aspirations, the devastating failures that followed, and the flickers of resilience she discovered along the way. Her past, once a point of shame, began transforming into poignant lessons that could foster connection. Wasn't that the essence of what they aspired to create? With increased clarity, she formulated an invitation for Sarah. She envisioned a brainstorming session, a safe space where both could exchange their stories, intertwining their narratives to birth something new. Crafting the email, she felt each word resonate with authenticity, a blend of enthusiasm and fear. Yet, before sending it, her heart raced at the thought of possible rejection. A quick glance at the clock reminded her, she had a meeting scheduled later in the afternoon with a potential sponsor for their collaborative endeavor. Fatigue seeped into her bones at the thought of sharing her vision yet again. What if her passion didn't translate? What if the sponsor dismissed not just the project, but her contribution too? As she walked to the meeting, inner turmoil clashed with determination. The bustling city around her felt like a kaleidoscope of stories, each person an unwritten chapter waiting to be explored. Suddenly, she caught the reflection of herself in a storefront window, a stranger looking back, uncertain yet steadfast. That brief encounter ignited a thought. Perhaps it was not just about her journey, it was about the connections formed through the stories they were about to tell together. With a newfound sense of purpose, Evelyn stepped through the doors of the meeting venue, rehearsed lines momentarily forgotten. She would embrace the vulnerability that once suffocated her. She would share her journey not as a solitary endeavor, but as a collective one. As the meeting unfolded, she faced questions that pulled at the core of her integrity, pushing her to articulate the collaboration's essence. Gradually, she surrendered to authenticity, allowing moments of uncertainty to rise to the surface, responding with enthusiasm, building on the trust she hoped to establish. I see our project isn't just about profitability, she stated, her voice steady. It's about creating a legacy, one rooted in genuine connection. What we build can change lives, including our own. As uncertainty shadowed her words, the sponsor's expression shifted from skepticism to curiosity. Evelyn felt the shift within herself, too, a flicker of light illuminating the shadows she had once feared. But as the meeting drew to a close, a looming thought haunted her. Was she truly ready to share the depth of her pain in their project? Would facing it, even in the context of collaboration, destabilize her newfound bravery? The question hung in the air as she left the room, a fork in the path ahead, standing again at the precipice of her own potential for transformation. Evelyn clutched her notes tightly, resolved to delve deeper and confront her most profound vulnerabilities. It was complex, beautiful, a mosaic of the past and aspirations shimmering before her like a beacon. Yet as she stepped outside into the thrumming chaos of the city, she couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest part was yet to come. Would she dare to unearth the deepest stories buried within and share them with the world? Evelyn paced the sidewalk, shadowed by uncertainty and fueled by adrenaline. Each step echoed her dilemma, thrumming in her chest like a drumbeat. The potential of her project began to swell in her mind, mixing with a cocktail of fear that threatened to sway her resolve. What if sharing her deepest truths overwhelmed her collaborators or, worse, diminished their vision? The weight of her thoughts pressed heavier as she navigated the streets. It was a cacophony of sounds, horns blaring, laughter erupting, conversations flowing in every direction, underscoring the isolation that often clawed at her during moments of growth. Yet amid the chaos, there was something powerful about this life unfolding around her. With every passerby, she felt the collective pulse of humanity, each individual carrying untold stories that mirrored her own struggles and aspirations. Arriving at a small cafe, she opted for a moment of retreat. Sinking into a corner booth, she requested a coffee, allowing her thoughts to spiral as she stared out the window. The sun cast long shadows across the pavement, reminding her that darkness always existed alongside the light. What stories were hidden in her past? What pain could be transformed into wisdom that might guide not only herself but others into new possibilities? Her laptop hummed softly in her bag, and she pulled it out, setting it on the table. It was time to dig deeper, to pull on those elusive threads she had previously shunned. Concentrating on the flat screen, she drew a breath and began to type again. The light taps of her fingers against the keyboard transformed the bustling cafe into a sanctuary, a beacon of creativity amidst the distractions of the world. Growing up, I hid my artistic ambitions, she typed tentatively. I was told they were impractical, foolish even, yet every moment spent drawing or painting ignited a fire within me that could not be extinguished. As she wove her narrative, her fingers began to falter, memories emerged, vivid yet painful. The rejections, the unkind remarks from those who should have been encouraging. It was exhilarating to put that story out into the universe, even if her heart raced with fear of judgment, but that fear edged something else, determination. As the coffee cooled beside her, she crafted another section, connecting the dots between her childhood dreams and her present ambitions. Art is not just a hobby, it has always been a lifeline for me. Why should I fear sharing that truth when doing so may empower others? One particularly stirring memory broke through, an incident from her teenage years when she had presented her art at a local exhibition for the first time. The exhilaration of stepping out in front of the audience, feeling exposed yet alive, lifted her spirits. But then she remembered the criticism that followed, each word a stone that chipped away at her confidence. Still, it had also sparked a determination to create a narrative that could rise above that pain. With the contours of her story growing clearer, she recalled Sarah's insights about embracing vulnerability. What if sharing that rawness opened a path to connection, a bridge to others who felt misunderstood or lost? The thought excited her, and she began reshaping her outline, intertwining the stories of both her pain and eventual triumph. This wasn't just about her, it was about discovering strength through struggle. The cafe door swung open, pulling her focus away from her laptop. A woman, disheveled yet spirited, entered and, quite unexpectedly, locked eyes with Evelyn. Their connection was instant, almost palpable, as if Evelyn had just glimpsed her own untamed spirit reflected back. She was a stranger yet felt so familiar, a fellow seeker of stories, perhaps? Evelyn couldn't help but wonder what this woman had endured and how her journey could intertwine with her own. But as they exchanged glances, the woman's expression shifted. She recognized something in Evelyn, maybe it was the unspoken burdens or the flicker of determination she was nurturing. Before Evelyn could gather her thoughts, the woman approached her table. "Excuse me," she said, her voice solid but shaky. "I couldn't help but notice what you were working on. It looks very intense. Are you okay?" The unexpected question sent a jolt through Evelyn. Was she ready to discuss her vulnerabilities so openly with a stranger? Did she have the courage to make that leap? As the cafe enveloped them in its warmth, Evelyn faced a choice, one that could change the course of her day, and perhaps her life. Now might be the moment to embrace that risk, to share my story, she thought. The room spun a little as she replied, I'm actually trying to figure something out, something significant." Their eyes locked, the moment crystallizing between them, an invitation to truly delve into the stories that shaped them both. Would she allow herself to take this plunge into authenticity, even in the presence of someone she hadn't yet met? As the conversation began to unfurl, Evelyn felt another spark of growth ignite within her. She was closer than ever to unearthing the depths of her past, and a new path was unfolding before her, unpredictable and exhilarating. Would this encounter lead her further into the territory she feared, or would it illuminate the very heart of her storytelling journey? Evelyn took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle over her like a warm blanket. The woman's gaze remained steady, revealing a raw curiosity that stirred something within Evelyn. Was this connection genuine, or merely a fleeting encounter? Shaking off the uncertainty, she considered how even a stranger might hold the keys to her self-discovery. "I don't often have conversations like this," Evelyn admitted, surprising herself with her honesty. "I'm trying to work through my story, my art, trying to bring together the pieces of a life that sometimes feels disjointed." The woman leaned in, her eyes glimmering with empathy. "Then you must have an incredible story to tell. What do you fear the most about sharing it?" Evelyn hesitated, weighing her thoughts like stones in her hands. "That it won't resonate. That I'll look foolish, like I'm chasing a dream that's too big for me." The tremor in her voice revealed the truth she could scarcely face. "That fear is normal," the woman responded, nodding with understanding. "I've felt it too. But often, it's our vulnerabilities that forge the strongest connections. You might find that your truth inspires someone else, even in ways you cannot foresee." Evelyn considered this. The risk of exposure nagged at her, but she could sense the importance of saying what lay buried beneath her surface. In that cafe, she envisioned her past, her unpolished dreams and moments of rejection, and realized that sharing her struggles could weave a tapestry of courage for others. "Do you have a story?" Evelyn asked, suddenly eager to invite the woman into her inquiry space. "What brought you here today?" The woman paused, a flicker of sadness brushing over her features. "I'm in the process of leaving a job I've held for years. It wasn't fulfilling, and I kept waiting for the right moment to jump. But sometimes, the right moment doesn't come. You just have to push yourself. I've always loved storytelling myself, but the fear kept me shackled." Evelyn felt a kindred spirit unfurling within her. "So, you're also at a crossroads," she said, leaning forward. "What are you thinking about pursuing?" "Art, actually," she admitted, revealing a hint of a smile. "Drawing and writing. I want to pour my heart into that creative space, but I've never had the courage to fully embrace it. I keep wondering if I'm good enough." "Maybe this is it," Evelyn mused, her excitement bubbling to the surface. "Maybe we can push each other forward. If I can dig deeper into my own art, so can you. Let us be each other's accountability partners." The woman's expression brightened. "That sounds incredible. Sharing our journeys could help us both face our fears." As they exchanged ideas, Evelyn felt the barricades surrounding her insecurities shake loose, audience and collaborator intertwined into a mutual exploration. Ideas flowed freely between them, igniting both her creative spirit and determination. Within this spontaneous alliance, they could nurture their ambitions, turning fears into growth instead of stumbling blocks. Evelyn's own outline shifted in her mind, reshaping into a narrative that included both her struggles and the newly kindled flame of partnership. The concept of vulnerability evolved from a burden into an emblem of strength. It was as if the two could weave a rich tapestry illustrating their separate yet similar journeys of self-discovery. As the conversation deepened, Evelyn noticed the cafe transforming, the shadows shifting with the unfolding of their discussed truths. Her coffee, now cold, stood forgotten as ideas percolated between them. It became evident that the very act of sharing could revive the spirit of her project, unlocking depths she had shied away from. Yet, as they began sketching plans for their mutual journey, a sudden wave of doubt crept in. What if this camaraderie led her astray? What if the weight of responsibility for another's journey weighed too heavily on her own? Could she promise the accountability this woman needed just as she was learning to be honest with herself, before she could voice her secret? Anxieties, her phone buzzed on the table, breaking the flow of their creative exchange. It was a message from Sarah, her collaborator and mentor, wanting to discuss pivotal choices regarding their project. Evelyn's heart raced. Did this mean she could solidify her ideas? Or did it mean sharing the space she began cultivating? Taking a moment to gather her thoughts, she looked at the woman who had suddenly stepped into her life. "I need to figure something out," she confessed, glancing back at the screen lighting up her emotions. Her heart ached between two paths, one deeply nurturing connection and the other compelling professional advancement. The woman nodded, her expression a blend of encouragement and understanding. As Evelyn prepared to answer Sarah, she felt the weight of decision settled on her shoulders, choices not solely about herself, but about the potential impact on others, both present and future. Was she ready to take the next step in her journey, facing both her vulnerabilities and responsibilities? Evelyn glanced again at her new ally, and in that moment, a spark of determination surged. The next step awaited, but clarity still eluded her. As she typed, "I'll call you back in just a moment," she knew that the choices ahead could alter everything. The moment of truth beckoned, daring her to confront not just her fears, but the profound revelations of shared artistry and connection. Would she embark on this tangled path of collaboration, or risk stepping away? The meeting with Sarah felt like a turning point for Evelyn. All the insecurities she had wrestled with suddenly gained clarity. As they sat across from each other in the diner, she recognized how intertwined their paths had become. It was more than just a collaboration about an artist showcase, it was a journey toward authentic connection. Evelyn's voice resonated with newfound confidence as she relayed her vision. "This project is not just about saving the diner," she began. "It's a chance to showcase what makes us human. Our stories can illuminate and connect people in ways beyond just food or business. We have an opportunity to bring art back into our lives, to give voices to those who feel unheard." Sarah nodded, her eyes wide with excitement. Together, they began to map out their collective narrative, a tapestry that wove together their experiences, struggles, and aspirations. Weeks passed, and as their plans materialized, Evelyn felt layers of tension peel away. They gathered local artists, reached out to the community, and cultivated a space for creatives to share their work. Through the process, Evelyn found herself opening up more. The act of listening to others' stories began to help her unravel her own. Every shared heartfelt moment felt like a brushstroke painting an intricate masterpiece. One evening, after a particularly lively brainstorming session, Evelyn stood before the diner's windows. The warm light radiated around her, a reflection of the warmth blossoming within. She thought back to the woman at the cafe who had sparked a new flame of courage in her life. Their spontaneous bond had reminded her that vulnerability could breed strength, not weakness. Taking a deep breath, she decided it was time to confront her past not as a burden, but as part of her narrative. They were on the brink of their showcase, and this felt like the moment where she would not just unveil their project but also herself. Sharing her journey would be raw, but it was essential. She was no longer an isolated billionaire, she was an integral part of a larger tapestry, weaving both her story and Sarah's into the fabric of the community. The day of the showcase arrived. The diner transformed into a vibrant art space, adorned with masterpieces crafted by those they had uplifted. Evelyn felt an electrifying rush. As attendees began filtering in, she caught sight of Sarah mingling with the artists, their laughter and conversations mixing into a lively hum. It was stunning. Everything she dreamed of was on display. Steeling herself, Evelyn took to the stage and cleared her throat, her heart pounding yet steady. She could feel the collective breath holding the space as she began to speak. "I stand before you not just as a businesswoman, but as someone who has faced her share of struggles and reconnections," she began, the warmth of vulnerability wrapping around her. The audience leaned in. "I've spent years building walls, believing that they would protect me. But what I learned from my time with Sarah, with each artist in this room, is that authenticity lies in connection, in sharing our fears and aspirations. The words poured out, as she spoke of her past, her fledgling ambitions, and her yearning for genuine relationships. This showcase is a testament to the power of our stories, a celebration of not just our arts but our human experience. As she concluded, she saw a flood of faces, some moved, some inspired. For the first time, she wasn't just watching the audience from a distance, she was part of them. Afterward, people approached her, sharing how her words resonated with their journeys, igniting fire within them. Evelyn stepped off the stage, flooded with emotions, feeling a sense of profound fulfillment. The isolation she had felt for so long began to dissipate, replaced by a tangible sense of belonging. Sarah rushed over, her eyes sparkling. "You did it. You truly shared yourself," she exclaimed, pulling Evelyn into an embrace. "You helped me break through, Sarah. The diner isn't just a place anymore, it's a community," Evelyn replied, her voice thick with emotion. In that moment, Evelyn realized she had achieved something notable not only professionally but personally. She understood the value of connection could transform both her life and the lives around her. She had come a long way from the lonely billionaire peering out of her skyscraper. Evelyn's journey of growth had culminated in this moment. The empty echoes of solitude faded into the background, replaced by the comforting noise of a thriving community and renewed relationships. She had discovered what it meant to live fully by embracing vulnerability and connection, achieving not only professional success but also profound personal fulfillment. Join her on this transformative journey and embrace your own narrative. You need to subscribe now to witness more exclusive emotional stories that inspire growth and connection. Leave a like now to support the algorithm of authenticity and power. Comment with your reactions and theories about Evelyn's journey. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Your engagement fuels the spirit of storytelling we cherish.